Hello everyone and welcome to this video. My name is Ariston and today we're going to talk about classes and objects. This will be our introduction for object-oriented programming in Python. So if you're excited, let us go ahead and start coding. Alright, for today we're going to talk about classes and objects, the building blocks of object-oriented programming in Python. To be able to understand these concepts, we're going to build an Iron Man suit virtually, just like Tony Stark, who created a blueprint before building the first Iron Man suit, which would be the Mark 1. While captive by the 10 rings, we will also create our own blueprint in Python. To be able to create our blueprint in Python, we're going to use class. So class is a blueprint for creating new objects. But what is an object? The object will be the Iron Man suit that we're going to build. So we're going to build the Iron Man suit from the blueprint, which will be the class. So to create a class in Python, we're going to use the class keyword. So class, this would be the blueprint for creating an Iron Man suit, so we can call it as a class of suit. Then we're going to pass colon, press enter, and you can see that the next lines of code are indented, which means it will be part of our code block. So to be able to create the Iron Man suit, we're going to need a couple of things. So this would be the attributes. So the attributes would be the data about the object or the Iron Man suit that we're building. The data that we're going to need first is the model. Is this the Mark 1, Mark 2, or Mark 3? We're also going to need the weapons that this Iron Man suit will have. We also need to know if this Iron Man suit is flight capable or can it fly. And lastly, the most important part is we need to know what will be the material that we're going to use to build the Iron Man suit. To be able to build the Iron Man suit, we need the init method. So def double underscore init double underscore in a pair of parentheses. The init method is also known as the constructor. As the name suggests, a constructor is used to be able to construct or to build the object. In our case, the object is the Iron Man suit, based on the attributes or the data that we give it, based on what is the model, what are the weapons, and if it is flight capable, and lastly, the material that we're going to use to build the Iron Man suit. So in this init method that we have, the first parameter that we're going to pass is the self. So you don't have to call it self, but by convention, we often use self. Next, we're going to pass the parameters that we're going to need. We have the model, the weapons, if it is flight capable, and lastly, the material. So this will be the parameters for our init method. Now, we're going to create the attributes. So we have self.model equals the argument for our model parameter. We're also going to do that for weapons. So self.weapons is equals to weapons. We have self.flight capable equals flight capable. And lastly, we have for material that we're going to use. Now, let's use this class that we built. So to use this class, we're going to call the class suit, then pass a pair of parentheses. Now, inside of this parentheses, we're going to pass the arguments for our model, weapons, flight capable, and material parameters for our init method. So for the model, let's create the Iron Man suit Mark 1. So this would be Mark 1. Then for the weapons of Mark 1, we have first the flamethrower. Next, is we're going to pass here manually deployed missiles. So this would be a list of weapons that we have for our Mark 1. Then, is it flight capable? So in the movie, the Mark 1 have rockets on the boots to be able to allow Tony to get out of that sticky situation and escape from the 10 rings. However, it is not flight capable because it cannot sustain flight. So it can only be used once. In our case, we're going to set this to false value. Then we have the material. For the material of Mark 1, we have iron, copper, magnesium, alloy. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but based on my research, this would be the material that is used for Mark 1. We're going to add this into Mark 1. So this would be object instantiation. So we're going to instantiate our suit class. We're going to also create the Mark 2 and Mark 3. So for that, Mark 2, we're going to use our blueprint again. So that would be the suit class. For the model, we have Mark 2 and the weapons of Mark 2. The first one is repulsor. Iron Man or Tony also called this as the flight stabilizers. And we also have the unibeam, which would be chest repulsor. So Mark II would be flight capable, and the material that is used for Mark II would be chromed, titanium, and steel alloy. So this would be Mark II instead. Then we have for Mark III. So for Mark III, we're going to call the suit class. The model would be Mark III. The weapons, we have repulsor. Then we also have the unibeam. Let me copy this one. Kinetic, micro missiles. Lastly, we have shoulder mounted auto aim guns. Okay, then we also have the flares. This Mark III is also flight capable, and the material that is used for Mark III would be gold titanium alloy. Tony used gold titanium alloy to fix the icing problem. Now, let us try to access the attributes that we have for Mark 1, Mark 2, and Mark 3. Access the object, then going to use the dot operator, access the attribute. So in our case, if we call the Mark 1 dot weapons, so we are able to access the attribute weapons for this specific object that we have right here. Let us try to print the weapons that is used for Mark 1. So print, this would be Mark 1. If we try to run this, we get flamethrower, manually deployed missiles. So we are able to access the attributes for our Mark 1 object. So we can also try and do that for Mark 2 and Mark 3. So let me just change this to 2. And then for this one, we have 3. Let us try to run this. And we are able to access the weapons attributes for each of our object. Now, one of the useful ways to be able to check if an object is an instance of a specific class, we can use the isInstance built-in function. So we can ask the question, is Mark1 an instance of the suit class? So comma, then let's use the isInstance built-in function. So the first thing that we're going to pass is the object. So we have the Mark1. Then we're going to pass the class. So we have suit. So if we try to run this, it would return to us true if that object is an instance of the class, and false if it is not. In our case, we have here true. So Mark1 is an instance of our suit class. Now we successfully created our objects or our Iron Man suits based on our class or our blueprint. Each of our objects can have what we call the methods. So methods are functionality that is associated with an object or a class. So in most of the Iron Man suits, we have a way for us to be able to see or display data, or Tony would like to call the heads-up display. So we can also create a method or a functionality that will allow us to display all of the information about the current Iron Man suit. So to create a method inside of our suit class, so we can call this method as the suit info. So def, then you can say display suit info. Then a method inside of a class should have the self parameter. So let us print each of our information for our Iron Man suit. So print, let's use an F string. So we have for model, let's call self.model. Then let's try to do that for weapons attribute, flight capable, and material. So print, this would be the weapons. Now for the weapons, we're going to pass a pair of curly brackets. Then we want to join each of the weapons that we have inside of our list. So pass here, comma, then dot join. We're going to join self dot weapons. Okay. Next, for our flight capable Boolean value, so you can say flight capable. Now, if you don't want to display true or false, you can also pass here a pair of curly brackets. Then we're going to display yes if self dot flight capable is equals to true, else we're going to display no. Okay, then lastly, you can print the material. Now for the material, we're going to pass a square or curly brackets. Then inside of the curly brackets, we're going to print the material. So now we have a method to display the suit information. Now each of our object will have access to these methods, and it will allow them to be able to print the data for that specific Iron Man suit. So let's try that out. Let's try to remove this one for now. Now let's call the Mark1 to be able to call a method we're going to call the object first. Then let's call the method and a pair of parentheses right here. So let's call mark1 dot and display suit info method. If you try to run this, we get here mark1. Then we have weapons, we have flamethrower and manually deployed missiles and flight capable. In this case, mark1 is not flight capable, and this would be the material that we have. We can also do this for mark2. And lastly, we have the mark3. Try to run this. We get for mark1. Then maybe we can print an empty to be able to separate them. We have mark1, mark2, and mark3. So we successfully created a method inside of a class, and each of our object will have access to this method, and it will allow them to be able to view each of the arguments that you pass for the parameters or each of the attributes for this specific object that we have right here. We have flamethrower, manually deployed missiles for the weapons of our Mark 1. So this is the concept of object and class in Python. So a class would be the blueprint for creating new objects. In our case, the Iron Man suit is an object that is created by using the blueprint, which would be the class of suit. So I hope you guys learned a lot from this video that we have about classes and objects. And if you do, can you please like this video and subscribe to the OneCodeCamp YouTube channel. That would be all for me, and hope you guys have a good day.